Most bad habits do not begin with rebellion. They begin with autopilot. Welcome back. Atomic Habits now moves into the first law. Make it obvious. This is where James Clear gets practical. If a behavior starts with a cue, then the first question is not how do I try harder? It is what in my world is already nudging me, and what am I failing to notice because the behavior has become automatic. Clear opens with a story about a medical worker who could sense something was wrong with a patient before the instrument showed it. That story is not there to make habits sound magical. It illustrates how pattern recognition gets embedded through repetition. The brain becomes efficient. It stops narrating every decision in full because it has seen this movie before. That efficiency helps us function, but it also hides behavior from us. Many habits happen before we examine them. You unlock the phone. You open the app. You wander to the snack. You postpone the task. You say yes to the meeting. You do the familiar thing because it is familiar. By the time awareness arrives, the routine may already be underway. So the first step is not discipline. It is observation. Clear suggests a habit scorecard. Write down what you actually do. Wake up. Check phone. Shower. Coffee. Email. Social media. Commute. Snack. Delay. Scroll. Late night video. None of this sounds profound, but honesty about reality is more useful than inspirational fiction about who you hope to be. The habit scorecard matters because many people evaluate themselves morally before they evaluate themselves accurately. They think, I am lazy, distracted, inconsistent, chaotic. Clear wants a cleaner first question. What is happening? Which behaviors are serving me? And which are quietly steering me somewhere I do not want to go? Awareness gives you leverage. Vague guilt does not. He also introduces the idea that habits become easier to change when they are named in concrete, situational terms. That is where implementation intentions come in. Instead of saying I should read more, say I will read for 15 minutes at 9 p.m. on the couch after I put my phone in the other room. The point is to remove ambiguity. A general intention leaves too much space for future you to improvise an excuse. This is one of the recurring strengths of the book. Clear keeps translating abstract desire into environmental or time-based design. People often assume motivation fails because they are weak. Often motivation fails because the plan was fuzzy. When a behavior has no obvious entry point, the brain defaults to whatever is easier or more immediate. Habit stacking works on the same principle. Attach the new behavior to an existing one. After I make coffee, I will review my task list. After I brush my teeth, I will floss. After I sit at my desk, I will write one paragraph. The existing habit becomes a cue for the new one. You are piggybacking on a pathway the brain already trusts. That makes the book less about self-reinvention and more about continuity. You do not need to rebuild your whole life from raw materials. You often need to link better actions to routines that are already stable. The day already has anchors. The question is whether you're using them deliberately. Then Clear turns to environment, and this chapter should bother anyone who still thinks willpower is the main engine of consistency. He argues that the environment often matters more than motivation because visible cues drive behavior more aggressively than people admit. We tend to think we choose actions freely while ignoring how often the room, the screen, the layout, and the defaults are choosing first. If fruit is hidden and junk food is visible, one decision gets easier. If your guitar is in the closet, practice becomes theoretical. If the book is on the pillow and the phone charger is across the room, a different evening begins to feel more natural. This is not cheating. This is design. Good environments reduce the need for heroic restraint. That is why Clear says the people with the best self-control are often the people who need to use it least. They are not necessarily resisting temptation all day with saint-like intensity. Often they have simply arranged life so the temptations show up less often. The candy is not on the counter. The distracting app is not on the home screen. The desk is ready before the work session starts. The running shoes are already out. This idea is freeing because it shifts attention from internal drama to external setup. Instead of promising yourself that next time you'll be stronger, ask whether next time should be made easier. If the cue for a bad habit is constant and the cue for a good habit is hidden, your system is misaligned. Clear also points out that context matters. Habits get linked not only to time, but to places. A couch can become a cue for binge watching. A desk can become a cue for procrastination if that is where you habitually avoid hard work. One way to rebuild behavior is to give spaces clearer jobs. A corner for reading, a desk for writing, a table for planning. When a space becomes associated with one primary action, starting gets easier. This does not mean life needs to become sterile or obsessive. It means the environment should stop fighting the behavior you claim to want. Many people say they want focus while living inside a system built for interruption. They say they want healthier eating while filling the kitchen with instant cues for the opposite. They say they want calmer evenings while treating the phone like a permanent extension of the hand. The first law also contains an implicit challenge about honesty. If you keep returning to a bad habit, perhaps the cue is more obvious than you admit. The notification, the route home, the friend group, the kitchen counter, the browser tab, the stress cue after work. It is easier to say, I slipped, than to say I built a daily trigger and left it untouched. That is why Clear's approach remains practical. Make good cues visible. Put the book where the phone usually goes. Put the water bottle on the desk. Put the gym clothes by the door. Leave a notebook open. Schedule the behavior in a specific place. Make the starting point hard to miss. At the same time, make bad cues less visible. Hide the snack. Remove the app. Change the route. Turn off the trigger. Put friction between you and the old automatic behavior. You do not need to prove toughness by living inside a minefield. You need to make repeated action sustainable. A subtle but important point runs underneath all this. Self-control still matters, but it is a poor first line of defense when design could do the work earlier. People overestimate character in the moment and underestimate structure beforehand. Clear is always asking how the moment can be redesigned before the moment arrives. This makes the first law a lesson in humility as much as strategy. You are not always making decisions in a clean, rational vacuum. You are reacting to what is obvious, available, and repeated. If that is true, then changing the visible world around you is not a minor trick. It is one of the main levers of behavioral change. Thank you for staying with this second part. Next, we move into the second law, make it attractive, where Clear tackles craving directly, dopamine, temptation bundling, social influence, and the uncomfortable truth that many habits stick because they satisfy emotional desires long before they produce external results. Final close. If a habit starts with a cue, the smartest move is often not to promise better willpower. It is to make the right cue hard to miss and the wrong cue harder to obey.